Hey, what's going on guys? It's Trek YT here, or Nick, back with another brand new video. So today we're trying to revisit something that I've kind of sort of done in the past. So you guys may or may not remember this, but I've done block palette videos in the past. One of them did pretty decent, the other one did also pretty decent as well. But I haven't done one since 1.8, or I haven't done one on any updates past 1.8. So there's definitely been some different block additions in 1.9, 1.10, even 1.11, but we're now on the snapshots, which is going to become 1.12. So I've decided to put 3 block palettes for you guys involving those new snapshot blocks, and maybe even a couple new blocks that have been added in between. I think that this could benefit a lot of you guys and get us prepped for the full release of 1.12. So without further ado, guys, let's jump right into today's video. So our first block palette is pretty, I guess you would call marine theme. That's what I'm kind of going for. It kind of resembles, in my opinion, sort of a Guardian Temple type feel. I mean, the block choice has some blues in it, and then it has a lot of bricks in it. So what we're working with is the stone bricks, grass, then we're using the new terracotta blocks, or actually this is the concrete block, but those are also in the game as well. So this is the concrete block, this is just regular cyan wool, and then this is concrete powder. So one thing I want to mention about concrete powder is it really strongly reminds me of sand. So it has a lot of the similarities of sand. So now we basically have a full color set of different colored sands in a way. So I think that is going to benefit majorly people in the building community, because it gives us another full, I guess, 12 or 13 blocks that are all pretty useful when we've always had just regular colored sand. Now having colored sand in a way is actually really beneficial. And then the, I guess, parent block of that is the concrete block, and this is just a really nice, solid, nothing too crazy texture that just has different colors, and it's just a plain block. And I think it's going to be really beneficial for a lot of people, because we've always had colored blocks that have little textures in them, like this wool has some texture in it. But now we finally have a block that's just straight cyan, no real pattern design to it, just straight color. And that's kind of something that's going to become useful for a lot of people, and it allows us to become very monochromatic when we're building palettes. So next we have our oak leaves, some cobblestone, and some andesite. So let's take a look of how I kind of use this in the build. I kind of try to use those blocks more as, I guess, terraforming blocks, or blocks that are more in the ground, so trying to make up the landscape kind of thing. So I think that the color range that we now have, adding in these addition of these couple new blocks, really gives us a lot of opportunity to try to do some new terraforming things. Now I mixed in some grass and I mixed in some sand to try to break up the feel of the monochromatic, but you could have went straight monochromatic and this would have looked awesome. And I think it gives a lot of opportunities for a lot of other people to do cool things when you're really working with monochromatic ideas. So the build itself is just a dam, and it has this water coming through, so that's kind of how my rendition of a dam. But I want to talk about the whole idea of monochromatic. Now these are all cyan themed blocks. Now we've got the regular cyan clay, but is now renamed to terracotta to kind of go with this block over here. So we are now calling this terracotta block. So we've got the cyan terracotta, the concrete powder, some regular wool, and then we have some concrete. Then we have the new terracotta blocks, which are really funky blocks. But in the third palette, you guys kind of see how I try to intermix that into a build. Even though looking at this block right now, it's like daunting to think that it's really kind of difficult. But one thing we're really going to play with is all the colors that are already intermixed in the box, and then we're going to try to intertwine that into a build that. And then we have ourselves some shulker boxes, where basically chests. But what I really like is the top part of this, and then I like the bottom part of them. You can place some sort of like logs, so you can place them in all different directions, and I think that the bottom design is really cool, and you'll see that in our second block palette. And I think the top one is also really cool. So if you can work out some sort of, I guess, game code to try to make an all-sided block, I think that would be really cool. So we're gonna move on to our next palette, and we're gonna expand a little bit on the use of shulker boxes. So we're over at our next palette and our next palette build, and I guess the theme for this is really the different colors that are now kind of in the game. Again, trying to work off on that monochromatic thing, but also trying to show you guys the creativity that you kind of have now with different block choice. And that main block choice is going to be our shulker box. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this block right here and kind of show you what I mean. So if you're just placing this block normally, it's going to place like that, sort of like a chest would place. So you can open it up and it kind of spins and stuff. But the textures that I'm really kind of focused on are this one on the top and then the one on the bottom. So a good way to look at that is you place it up against a block and then break it. So the bottom texture has this almost like log type texture to it. I mean, let's grab a log right now and I'll show you guys what I mean by that. If you go ahead and place this next to it, it kind of has a similar spiral to it in the center. So I think that this texture can work very, very well with the bottoms of logs or just with logs in general. So they kind of work as good pieces like that. So I really like this texture on the bottom. The texture on the top would also work really great because it does have a little bit of a, I guess, softer tone to the color itself. But I think this block is really, really cool. But let's move right into the actual palette that we are working with today. We are working with two separate colors of red. So just the regular concrete sand, we're actually now using as a wall block, I guess, in a way. We're using it because it's not as intense as sand, I guess, the texture itself, but the color is just very vibrant and it works a little bit better, in my opinion, than the terracotta, and it works a little bit better than the wool. So we got some of that. We got obviously our main blocks, our cobblestone, our log to really show the supports, and we're trying something different. This was definitely inspired by a YouTuber by the name of Exumavoid. He used this in one of his builds in his Hermitcraft series, and I wanted to try it out for myself in today's video. Then we have a really strong dark coal color, then we have the spruce, and then we have some leaves again, as always. So let's take a look at the build today. We've kind of got a more castle, I guess, overgrown castle type theme to it, but at first I just want to show you guys quickly attention to the use of shulker boxes. This is what I mean. I really like the bottom side of this texture, and I think it looks really kind of cool protruding from the log. And then also you can see behind it back here, you can see kind of what I meant by the Exumavoid. I think that this is kind of cool. I mean, the browns inside these boxes or inside of this block really are kind of cool, and it's kind of a creative use of that block. Normally they're used for the function, but I think that they can in certain circumstances work really well with other blocks. So walking more into the build, this build is kind of themed around a wilderness. So we have a very, I guess, organic flowing walkway up to the top, and then you kind of see what I'm talking about when I mean the concrete block as a wall block. I think that let's go ahead and get ourselves out a terracotta wool. I mean, I'm just going to call it clay, even though that's what it is. Now, this block looks cool. It would have been very generic. It kind of has a very, I guess, I don't know, flat feel to it. Kind of feels like the oak log. Kind of has a darker, flat, more pastel-y feel to it. And I think that the use of the concrete powder block really does kind of give it a little bit more vibrant to it. And I think that if you kind of look back, you kind of see little white pieces in all of the little concrete powder blocks, and it kind of almost gives it like a sparkling effect to it. And I think that makes it kind of look more like it should fit in an enchanted forest. So that's kind of, I guess, what you consider the theme of this, almost like an enchanted forest type deal build. And I think that it really does work well with the more pastel-y wood blocks, and I think that it almost gives everything a little bit of like a magical feel or almost like a little pop. And then if you mix in some ender chests like this, you're going to get the ender chest particles, which also give it a great deal of awesomeness to it. So we're going to go ahead and move on to our next palette. I just wanted to go ahead and show you guys the use of these concrete powders, that they can be used more than just in the landscape. They can also be used in builds themselves. So jumping into our next build, the focus for this palette and this build is the use of the new glazed terracotta blocks. Now, what I'm talking about is I'm talking about the new funky looking blocks back here. Now, there's one for every color in the game, and they all have their own unique design on them. And now, when you're looking at this, this looks really I guess, Minecraft feel. It doesn't really look like it should fit in Minecraft, but I have taken a little bit of time to really think about how these blocks could be beneficial in their own way. Now, some of them, mainly the one over here, kind of, I guess you could use this almost in maps because it has an arrow design in it, but then blocks like this over here kind of look like a kitchen tile or a bathroom tile or something like that. So you can use it in those ways, but one way that I tried to think of out of the box is really take a look at the block itself, see what colors are made up of the block. So in our instance, we're using the yellow glazed one. Now you can see there's some yellows in there, but you can also see there's some browns in there and then some lighter color blocks. So what we're going to focus on is try to use a block palette that kind of almost resembles the colors within this block, so that way when we do implement that block, it really does kind of fit really well. So let's go back over to our build first, check out what palette that we are working with. So we're working working with a lot of the monochromatic browns. So we're trying to utilize all of the new blocks. So we have our concrete powder, we have our new terracotta or concrete block, then we have a, I believe, terracotta block, and then we have all the way over here, we're going to jump back onto that side afterwards. We have our dirt, and then we have our podzol, then we have our wool, and we have some more terracotta, then we have our wood, and then we have the lighter block. So this lighter block is supposed to resemble more or less this white, almost tan texture within the terracotta block. Then we do have some yellow inside the bridge over there, as well as the terracotta block within the bridge itself. So, and then we have obviously the browns all throughout. So that's really kind of how I wanted to try to implement this block into this build. So the bridge itself is really where I was trying to focalize all of those colors into the same, I guess, spot, so that way when I did implement that block, it definitely kind of fits. So around the outside, that's sort of like its own little thing. We did use the monochromatic technique, but with all the, I guess, the new blocks that we had offered to us. But when we jump all the way over to this bridge, we can take a breakdown of this and see the yellows are on top. I guess the browns obviously are within the logs and the spruce, and then the really light colors are made up of all of these oak slabs and stairs. So we really tried to, I really tried to, I guess, use all the colors again inside this block to make it fit. And I think that when you look back at it, that block definitely looks like it's there. Though it has some really weird designs on it, I think that it does really fit within this bridge. And I think you could almost implement like a terracotta block, like a straight terracotta powder, or I meant the clay, I'm just gonna call it clay. You could implement the clay in there, but I think that mixing it up with almost a pattern within the block really does give a cooler feel to it. Something that's kind of new to Minecraft, and something that we kind of all have to adapt to is to try to add some things like this. And now maybe in the future they're going to add some more funky looking blocks like this. I really kind of hope they do stray a little bit away from that. I don't want a ton of crazy blocks in Minecraft, but I think with the set of blocks that they've provided with us, it really gives you the opportunity to try to use your creativity to really see where you can make the blocks fit. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys, and you guys got a little bit of an idea of where I go to when I'm trying to make block palettes for these new 1.12 blocks. So if you guys would like to, you guys can download this map. I'm going to leave the map itself in the description, and then you can kind of all try to fly around. All the builds are relatively close to each other. Like right here is this build, over towards those spruce trees is that build, and then I'll even throw my cords up right now so you guys can see where this one is. But all the way over on top of those mountains over there is the second build that I showcase. So if you guys would like to check out this map and kind of see the techniques that I use, or you just kind of like the builds themselves, I'll leave that down in the description so you guys have access to that and can use your creativity to try to do something cool with the build. As always, guys, show your support down below. As always, everything kind of helps, especially in the stage we are in YouTube right now with the whole ad boycott and all that stuff. It really does kind of help to see all the support that I've been shown on the videos, and I really do appreciate every last person that kind of shows support on the videos, and I'll never let you guys not know that. So as always, guys, I love you all. See you guys later. Peace out.